Welcome to American Beer TV. We've got a great episode for you today. We are doing the history and celebrating the 30th anniversary of Sierra Nevada Brewing Company, which happened in 2010.
Yep.
But because they did a 4-part series or a 4-part release of their 30th anniversary beers, we wanted to wait till they were all out, and then we're going to do them all together instead of doing them individually.
So that'll be a lot of drinking. But one of the things that's really cool about the Sierra Nevada 30th anniversary beers is they really span the history of craft beer. They go back. There's collaborations with some of with Fritz Maytag from Anchor Steam. We've got collaborations with Charlie Papazian and some of the greatest home brewers that started this stuff. There's some really great history in the beers themselves, and so we wanted to just start off by going back to the beginnings of Sierra Nevada as well, and do their first 3 beers that they made. So come back in time with us to the beginnings of Sierra Nevada.
So we start with the Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. They started brewing this beer in 1980, and they actually didn't completely release it until it didn't hit the store shelves until 1981 because they dumped their first 9 batches.
Exactly.
So, which is really a cool thing because that shows that Sierra Nevada wasn't out there just to make a bunch of beer.
Yeah.
That they were out there to make a quality product.
At the time, each one of those batches, all 9 of those batches, cost about $1,000 for them to do. So it's no small thing to just dump it. A lot of other companies probably would have tried to incorporate that
or
into some other way.
Yeah.
But no, not Sierra Nevada. So they were dedicated to a quality product from the beginning. Then, what happened?
So, Sierra Nevada was founded by Ken Grossman and Paul Camusi.
Yep. And
Ken later took over the company completely, bought out Paul. So
yep.
It's all about Ken now.
Exactly. It's
and
Ken's company.
So starting this brewery back in the day, and the reason why we have these 30th anniversary bottles is Ken got a lot of influence from San Francisco's Fritz Maytag, who was running Anchor Brewing Company, and Jack, I forget his name from Jack and Ken Special. Jack ran New
McAuliffe.
Huh?
McAuliffe.
Jack McAuliffe, that was his name.
I believe that's
and
his name. Yes.
The name of the brewery was New
Albion.
New Albion. It's always a hard one for me to say.
If you were a D&D nerd, it
I don't know what the hell Albion means.
Right.
So I guess you got to be into that stuff.
Yeah, you do. Things really started to take off for Sierra Nevada when Jerry Garcia, announced that.
Yeah, in the mid '80s.
In the mid '80s, he announced that he was a big fan of their beers, and boom, that's the recognition they needed in order to catapult them.
All it takes is a bunch of deadheads to get into something, and then
there we go.
The word spreads like wildfire.
So yeah, and after that, they've been growing consistently ever since then, adding more and more brewing capacity and making sure that they have a very green facility. Well, I
think 80% of the Sierra Nevada Brewing Company is all solar powered.
I know they just bought a Chevy Volt. I saw that on their Facebook. They're very into it. They're growing their own malts. They're growing their own
Sierra
hops.
Nevada Brewing Company is a very forward-thinking business.
Right.
Not just, it's great that they make beer, but they're just on a business level very forward-thinking about growing, like you said, growing their own grain and hops and being very earth-conscious, and the way they distribute their beers is very eco-friendly and
and even back at the beginning, one of the things that Sierra Nevada consciously did that was rather unusual is they made they kind of broke trends with both the craft beer industry and home brewers. They used only whole hops.
The cones,
the whole hop cones in their beers. They didn't use
still
the pellets.
Do that. They still do that.
They didn't use the pellets. Home brewers, we all use those pellets, but Sierra Nevada has always been whole cone hops hops, whole cone hops. So let's
get into tasting these beers, and we'll talk about how beers like this changed the brewing industry.
Exactly, the face of craft beer. So we start off with their pale ale, which is a English style, solid pale ale. We talked about this one a bit on our Founding Fathers series, but it's always nice to go back and revisit. So
cheers.
Cheers.
So if you were drinking the big breweries back then, Stroh's, Pabst, Bud, Miller, Hams, all those, and you took a sip of this, that would just blow your mind.
Mm-hmm.
For me, growing up, what got me into home brewing beer and got me into drinking craft beer was all my buddies, in high school and stuff, were always drinking that crappy beer, and I didn't like it. I would not drink beer, until I tasted Sierra Nevada and some other, craft breweries. I was like, oh, this is what beer is supposed to taste like, and then that's what got me hooked. So
yeah, no, this one, I mean, it's still a really good beer. It's still really fresh. It's got good hop flavor. It's got good malt flavor. It's very well balanced.
Still bottle conditioned. There is yeast sediment at the bottom of the bottle. So
I mean, it's become, unfortunately, it's become kind of pedestrian today. It's just kind of an average beer, but at the time, it was
because it's so readily available.
It is, and it's just become kind of a standard. But it's really, really well done standard. So this shows you just how much our tastes as craft beer drinkers have elevated when we consider something that was absolutely, totally unique, totally, blow your mind. For in the grand scheme of things in 1979, 1980, 81, and now here we are 30 years later, and it's commonplace. So
it's good. That's a good thing. So let's keep it rolling.
Excellent.
So another thing that Sierra Nevada did, we'll move on to the porter.
Right.
Is that not only did they make English style pale ale that was a really hoppy style of beer, they also brewed a porter and a stout. So let's get into the porter.
And these styles had really not been seen in America.
Yeah.
In
the only
years.
Beers really that were even coming over here there was a low number of Bass, which was really hard to find, and Guinness was really hard to find.
Yeah. So those are about the only things, but and this is their porter. You didn't even want to get into the nose or nothing.
Yeah, I sniffed it.
Yeah.
Chocolatey.
Yeah,
chocolatey
definitely very chocolatey.
Chocolate on the palate too.
Mm-hmm.
It's been years since I've had this beer.
Yeah.
I've had this beer quite a few times, but it's literally probably
chocolate,
been like 8 or 9 years.
chocolate coffee, but it's definitely
it's a great porter.
Yeah.
It does have it's got a little hoppiness.
Yeah, and it's still not totally dark. I mean, it's a deep brown, but you can definitely still see through it. I think this is also interesting to note because this is really where a lot of people get their idea of styles from. Mm-hmm. I mean, because this is what they kind of grew up with. I mean, these three beers right here really set the standard for American craft beer tastes. This was a pale ale for them. This was a porter. This is what a porter should taste like. If it didn't taste like Sierra Nevada's, it wasn't appropriate to style.
They've set the bar
really
of like what American beers are supposed to taste like.
Right.
I mean, because there's porters all over, but American craft beers, it's pale, porter, and then let's get into the stout.
Yeah.
So and then stouts. I mean, especially.
Yeah. Stouts are, pretty much my favorite style.
This is a bigger beer, especially back in the day.
Yeah, I mean, what was this one? Do they even talk about? Yeah, this is 5.6 alcohol by volume. So.
The stout is 5.8, and the pale is I want to say 5.6, 5.6.
Yeah.
So.
And the stout is,
in all the beers.
Yeah, the stout is not as chocolatey, not as, so much, but more bitter.
Yeah, it has the malt bitterness, that roasted malt bitterness.
But, definitely
Man,
all of these are.
That brings back some memories.
Yeah.
That beer.
All of these are sessionable. All of these are easy to drink. All of these have great flavor. So you really cannot go wrong with any of these beers.
I know just from personal experience, like picking up a 6-pack of Sierra Nevada Stouts, it was like, it's on. Like, we're drinking serious beers because there really was nothing else around. I mean, we couldn't find anything. It was, Northern California there was more stuff around, but down in LA, it was like, if you got a 6-pack of Sierra Nevada Stout, or even if a liquor store had it, it was like, you guys are cool.
Exactly.
And then, we'd just buy it all up. So then they would just keep ordering more and more. It's like, man, those guys drink a lot of beer.
No, I think some on their on Sierra Nevada Stouts was like, 80% of their sales came from California, and like 43% came from Northern California specifically. Yeah. So, it was tough to find for a while, but their expansions into, I think they have like a 600,000 barrel facility today. So now they can really pump it out.
Yeah, I think they're right around 1 million now.
Oh, are they?
To
Okay.
this day, I think they're right around that level.
I see.
I don't know the exact number, but I think they're somewhere around.
Okay. Yeah. So they're definitely cranking it up, and we can see why. These beers hit like a bombshell in 1980 on the craft beer scene, because no one had really done these before, and really revolutionized the industry. So started the craft beer revolution. So. And that's what we're going to celebrate here. We're going to get into some of their 30th anniversary beers. These are absolutely huge. We want to take some time and talk to you about them, and make sure we get a good tasting in. So we'll probably have a next couple episodes or something like that.
Yeah.
So
stay tuned.
Stick with us. We're going to bring you some more Sierra Nevada madness for their 30th anniversary. And as always, remember to drink great American craft beer.
Cheers.
Cheers.